gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Mind Your Fucking Business with Jeffrey Krentzman. Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I am good on this lovely Tuesday morning. Welcome to Mind Your Fucking Business. Heard on Spotify, iTunes, and not a million, but I feel like a lot of other places now I'm learning. Welcome to the program. Coming to you, as always, from the Undefeated Media Studios here in Bergen County, New Jersey.
Thank you.
And we are live here on this Tuesday morning, October 6th, which is when we are taping the episode for this week. How are you today? How you doing, Dougie Sticks?
I'm great, and I know you are as well.
I am. Today, you know what? I need to do my Spanish.
Yeah, do your thing first.
My Spanishness, or else we're going to get people not happy. This is episode Siete. Right? How you say it? Siete, right? Siete.
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete.
Siete. Episode Siete on the Spanish radio dial program for this week of the Mind Your Fucking Business podcast. You can reach us at any time at mypbshow@gmail.com. As well as plenty of other ways you guys have found to send in your questions for us. So, yes, a historical day today, today being October 6th, and kind of coincidental that we're taping the show today because we've just kind of normally done Tuesdays, I feel like, and it kind of works out this week that we're doing that because today is a day where you wake up, and I was thinking of comparisons driving in the studio, that the day you get married or the day that you're going to have a kid, let's say your wife is going to deliver that day or you have a wedding, the morning of that day that what you're going to witness in your eyes and through your eyes for the rest of the day is going to be something you remember for a really long time, and it will be a memorable day. And that's what we have here today in New York Ranger Nation, as tonight, the New York Rangers own the top selection in the 2020 NHL Draft. And there is no surprise as to what they're going to do. Now, it is not suspenseful as to what the Rangers are going to do at pick number 1. We have told you on this program for the past 7 weeks what they're going to do, although it's been pretty obvious, and there's been people out there that said, well, maybe they'll trade the pick, whatever. They're not going to trade the pick. We've told you for 7 weeks what's going to happen tonight. The Rangers will draft Alexis Lafreniere, and he will be hopefully the next savior or the next, let's say, Mark Messier, Wayne Gretzky type player in the NHL. So as you wake up today, if you are a New York Ranger fan, and there are a lot of you out there listening, that this is going to be a day that you remember for a while. I'll give you an example. Last week, we talked a little bit about how Henrik Lundqvist was bought out and his run on Broadway was over. And if you saw in the last week all the coverage about it, think of how many times you saw footage of the night Henrik Lundqvist got drafted in 2000. It all went back because you now look back 20 years ago to that. And 20 or 25 years from now, when Alexis Lafreniere's career is over, and let's hope it ends in a blue shirt and he never leaves Broadway, you will look back and you will see footage of tonight, October 6, 2020, when he was drafted by the New York Rangers at number 1 overall. So it's a special day for the franchise, really. Obviously, the Rangers have done a remarkable job in this rebuild that is really now only been about 30 months old from the spring of 2018. They've stockpiled prospects. They have gotten a little bit lucky with some draft stuff. Obviously, they got the number 2 pick last year in Capo Caco. They hit the draft lotto this year and will cash in on their lotto ticket tonight with Alexis Lafreniere. And when you look at this player that they're going to draft, now look, you can look back in football and think Ryan Leaf, the people who are going to be drafted number 1, and their careers end up being a bust. But when you look at the statistics that this kid has so far in his life, and he's young, it's really difficult to not get excited. So this past year in the league that he's played in, the junior league in Canada, all right, Dougie Sticks, he played in 52 games. Now, if you are a really good hockey player, right, I'd say you probably average maybe a point a game. So if he had 52 points in this 52 games, that would be really good. We'd be happy. But he didn't have 52 points in 52 games. He had 112 points in 52 games.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. It's like you when you played lacrosse.
Oh, thank you.
So the year before, he played in 61 games. Again, we'll take 61 points. That would be good. Nah, he had 105. So he has all the makings to be something special. Some of the comparisons you read as to what some experts feel his comparisons are to current players is really, really off the charts. And even if he got the lower end of the comparisons, we would be happy. So tonight, tune in at 7 o'clock on the NHL Network. There will be no suspense as to what's going to happen with the first pick, but watch it. It'll be a historical moment and one you do not want to miss, and one you will see replayed for many, many years. Now, what is a little bit suspenseful tonight for the New York Rangers is the second pick that they own. The Rangers are fortunate enough to have a second first-round pick. They pick first overall, as we talked about, but they also pick 22nd overall.
Not bad.
What would you do, Dougie Sticks, with the pick?
Ooh. I would. So Alexis plays center, correct?
He plays wing. He plays left
Okay,
wing.
then I'm getting a center.
That's a very good choice. So the Rangers, if they keep the pick, will probably do exactly what the hockey maven Dougie Sticks is saying.
Yeah.
And will go out and draft a center, because that is the one position right now the Rangers are lacking some depth in. They obviously have a top-line center in Mika Zibanejad, who had an incredible year last year, but they don't have much right now beyond that. And we don't know if we're going to re-sign Ryan Strome, and we're not sure if Philip Cheadle is ready to kind of ascend to a second-line center. So I think if they keep the pick, I think you're dead on accurate once again. The other thing that they you're welcome. The other thing that they could do, and it's definitely a possibility, is they may trade the pick because they may get good value for it. I don't know if they need the pick. Will it be nice to have? Yes. But if you can get something of value, it'll be very interesting to see what the Rangers do tonight with their second first-round pick. We know what they're going to do with their first pick in the first round. We don't know what they're going to do with their second pick in the first round. So tune in tonight. I think you're going to see them draft, if they do draft, the center, as you talked about. And it would make a lot of sense if they choose to trade it, and they trade it for a current player, they will try and get a center as well. So clearly that is the position of need on the New York Rangers. Now, defensively, they are pretty much set. They have some young kids coming up, and they have obviously Adam Fox returning, who had a stud year in his rookie year. They extended a qualifying offer last week to free agent Tony DeAngelo, who also plays on the blue line, who does not necessarily mean he will be back by getting a qualifying offer, but all signs are pointing that he will be back on Broadway. So you're not going to draft that, and you're certainly not going to draft a goalie because you have Igor Shesterkin. Really, who's your next goalie for the 10 or 15 years. So it's probably going to be a center or a trade of some sort. You'll have to tune in, and I'm sure you will.
So if we're making it, let's just say we're making a trade. Is there any players out there that you have a hint that we might go out?
Target? No, the Rangers last week. This is where the internet. Well, there's a lot of things wrong with the internet, man. We could do years worth of shows on that. And we probably could start with some of the apps of the world, not so much the internet. But
sure.
There was a rumor last week. Jack Eichel is a young player. He plays up in Buffalo. He actually went to Boston University, where I went to school. So I knew about him because I follow BU hockey. He played his freshman year. This is how good he was. He played his freshman year. I believe he won the College Hockey Player of the Year as a freshman, and then bailed and went pro, as he should, right?
Nice.
I mean, you can't get on him for that.
Yeah.
He was put in a very strong draft class. So he didn't get picked first overall. He got picked second. I believe Connor McDavid was that year. So Connor McDavid, rightly so, got picked before him. And the second pick was owned by Buffalo that year. I got nothing against Buffalo, but it's not really a desirable market if you're a professional athlete. So there was a lot of rumors last week that he's unhappy and he wants to get out of Buffalo. So, of course, reports come out from the NHL writers last week. Oh, teams are making phone calls about Jack Eichel, and who's the first team that they list? The New York Rangers. Look, if you could get Jack Eichel as your second-line center, I mean, great. But it's not really feasible. So you can't target him tonight if you're going to make a trade. I don't know. You know what? It's hard to get a value. If you're going to trade the 22nd pick overall in the draft, which has a lot of value to it, I'm not sure you can just line up and say, okay, I'm going to get you the equivalent of that value in a center of a current player. So I don't know. I think they're probably going to use the pick, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them trade it. But they're not. I don't really know. I don't think there's a center available that's going to make you really excited.
Unless if there's someone who's disgruntled like him who wants to get out,
right,
like a Jalen Ramsey, if we're
Correct.
NFL equivalent, who's is a problem in the locker room. We just got to get rid of him.
Right.
It's something like that.
Which Jack Eichel is certainly not. And now in the last couple of days, it's got you kind of come out that the GM, matter of fact, I read this at 2:00 this morning when I was up, that the new GM of the Buffalo Sabres said, we're not trading Jack Eichel. So we can just, we can put a kibosh on the rumors. But he wasn't coming here anyway, because the Rangers would have trouble fitting his $10 million a year contract in anyway, with what they've got on the books already. So it was a pipe dream. It was a nice kind of fantasy world to think number 9 Jack Eichel would wear the New York Rangers sweater, but never really was an option. So we'll see tonight what they do there. They do own some picks in the later rounds as well, and it will be very, very interesting to see what they do. The Rangers are in a great position, as we've talked about, to make some deals tonight in trades because they have so many young assets. So Jeff Gordon has done, I think, a really good job in the NHL. As the general manager of the Rangers. Some people will disagree with you, but I think it's very hard to get on his record the last 2 years with the rebuild that he's done. So whatever he wants to do tonight, we'll trust his judgment that he's looking out for us. And I say us, plural.
Yeah, of course.
And we'll see what he does tonight. So tune in. That is at 7:00 tonight on the NHL Network. Now, one other hockey note. Now, there's obviously not a lot of hockey going on now, although the offseason will get started this week. So we're in this week period now where the Stanley Cup Finals ended last week with the Tampa Bay Lightning winning it. And now we're kind of waiting to get into offseason mode, which really kicks off tonight with the draft. Did you see some of the footage of the Tampa Bay Lightning celebrating their cup win? Now, it's really cool. Obviously, when teams win, normally what they do is they do a ticker tape parade through their city, right? Like unfortunately for me, I was living in Boston when a lot of those teams won, so ticker tape parades in Boston was like an everyday occurrence. But obviously, right now with the coronavirus situation, that's not really feasible to put 1 million people on the streets of Tampa. So what they did, which was kind of cool, you should check it out.
Zoom parade?
No, they did a boat parade.
Interesting.
The Lightning players took the Stanley Cup, and one of the ways that they celebrated was they took the Stanley Cup and they went on a boat and they kind of went through these, I don't want to say lakes or whatever, but I don't know what you would call them, lagoons maybe of Tampa, I don't know. And they had their fans socially distanced on the grass or on land, and they all paraded through with the Stanley Cup. And if you watch, there is some footage that some of the Tampa Bay players during the parade may have had one too many cocktails.
Of course. And
I'm not talking about the Dunkin' Donuts that you and I are drinking on the table today, or your pumpkin latte over there, which you love.
Yeah, so we can go into that if you want for a second before you
Sure.
So I caved, and I was like, all right, it's October. I'm going to try one of these pumpkin spice lattes. I probably had one in the past, but I've always been, you know my stance on this. I'm sorry, they're not that good. I'm sorry.
I just
pumpkin
drink.
Spice is not that good.
You know what? I like pumpkin stuff. I'm not a huge fan. You know what I had last night? My kids. So my wife had back to school night last night. She's a teacher, so I had the kids. And we were coming over from soccer practice. It was 7:00. Mm-hmm. Now I probably shouldn't say this on the air because I can maybe get arrested for this. But they were begging me to take them to Dairy Queen. This was like 7:00. Now, by the way, 7:00 now at night. It's dark. We were really like out of the summer months because it's now straight up dark. Like we're walking in the car after my son's soccer practice. It's dark. So my kids are begging me to take him to Dairy Queen. I say no, right? And then it sits in my head for like a minute as we're driving, and I keep saying no. We're going home to shower and go to bed. I'm like, you know what? In my head, like Dairy Queen sounds good. So I get there, and I realize something that because I'm driving this kind of like bridge car, my lease was up. I ordered a new car. It's not in yet, but the dealer gave me like a loaner car. Well, because I have a loaner car, I don't have masks for my kids to go in Dairy Queen, but I have mine, because I was driving my car during the day. So I was like, damn, now I'm already there. So my kids are like, going bonkers in the backseat.
Yep.
They see the ice cream machine, but I can't take them in.
And you can't leave them in the car because someone will smash the window and think you love you.
Okay. All right. So here's what I did. Thankfully, the first spot was available, like literally right outside the door, because Dairy Queen on a Monday night in October at 7:15 is not really hopping as it is in the summer.
Sure.
So we pull up, and I say to them, "Look, if you guys want ice cream, you can't come in. They get it. They don't have masks, right? I am going to lock the car, and you can see, like when you're looking ahead, I am no more than 15 yards away from them.
I'm cool with it.
So I said, you cannot, under any circumstance, in the next 3 minutes that I'm in the store, leave. Now there's no line, so like I know I'm going to get in, I'm going to get out,
Yeah.
right? So I say, just
Don't move.
don't move. You can. I said, you can get out of your car seats, but you cannot get out of the car, because if you get out of the car, you're going to set off the alarm too, and then there's a whole scene, right?
Yeah.
So I get
How old are they, by the way?
9 and 7.
Okay.
So they're at the point where like they're
They comprehend
responsible.
English.
Right. They get it, but the 7-year-old can also be a little defiant when he wants to be. So, but I said, look, dude,
Ice cream's on the line.
yeah, you will not. I will take the ice cream cone. I will throw it in the garbage if you get out of the car and you get me arrested right now. So we ended up getting it last night. But what I was going to say is, if you're not a fan of the pumpkin spice stuff, which I'm not either,
Yeah.
I did try last night when I went there, and I survived and didn't get arrested. Dairy Queen has a pumpkin cookie butter shake,
Okay.
which sounds good and it sounds weird,
Yeah.
but it's very good. So
Interesting.
you should try
No
that. as
spice. That's probably why.
well, no spice. Yeah, I
the
don't
spice.
need
The spice. Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah. So anyway, if you saw a car last night at the Dairy Queen locally here in Bergen County with 2 kids in the pitch black, because I left the lights out, I didn't want anyone to see that they were in there.
Sitting in the backseat shaking.
Yeah, that was me. That was me. And then actually, even make matters worse, what happened was so you see me because I come in the studio with it. I have like a decent mask that I wear every week, the N95s or whatever.
Mhm.
Well, because I was in this other car, I had one of these like disposable ones. And as I was walking in, the band on the left side of it broke. So I had to hold the thing up. As my kid. It just was a mess. But you know what? We got our ice cream. We survived.
Nice.
And I'm not in jail. So you would have got a phone call from me because you would be the first one to bail me out.
Of course.
Yes. But anyway, Tampa Bay went on and won the cup. And they had these really cool celebrations. And then there was some controversy last week. And I'm going to get
Always is.
I'm going to get your input on this.
Okay.
Somebody posted something. I want to say it was on Twitter, and I don't remember the guy's name. And if it was, I probably don't want to say it anyway because the guy's got enough hate in the world. He posted something along the lines of Tampa Bay winning the cup this year in the bubble format, right? You're not traveling city to city. You're not playing home ice advantage, all that stuff.
Mhm.
Shouldn't count, or it doesn't count the same. So really what he was doing was he was belittling. That was a big word for me, by the way. Belittling the Tampa Bay win, saying it shouldn't count. And I don't know if somebody in the social media world reshared it because it then got play. I mean, I must have seen this thing in like 20 different places. Like, oh my God, these people are talking about it too. And he got crushed for it, and probably rightly so, because if you think about it, all right, let's recap here. I'm going to take a player on Tampa. They won the Stanley Cup. Let's take Kevin Shattenkirk. I'm a little biased. He used to be in New York Rangers. He also went to Boston University, so I've always been a fan of him. He has a 1-year-old son. Okay. He spent the last 9 weeks either in a bubble in Toronto or in Edmonton. Not seeing your wife and kid is pretty difficult. Now, I understand maybe that's not as difficult or more difficult, however you want to say it, than playing in a visiting team's arena with them all cursing obscenities at you for 3 hours that you've got to trudge through. But that's pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
You've been taken away from your family. So there's the mental aspect. The other thing is the quality of hockey, if you watched some of these games, was really good. I don't really know that there was a dip in quality because it was in a bubble. Mm-hmm. So this guy, whoever he was, got absolutely pummeled in the internet world, and rightly so, because to me, I think it's an equivalent win, and their names will be on the Stanley Cup as any team that has won it before, players have been, and it will count the same, and it will be the same. You fine with that?
So, first question. Is this a regular Joe Schmo who made this and it just went viral?
Yeah, I do not think, whatever the name was, I did not recognize it.
It wasn't like a sports analyst on ESPN or something.
No, it was
just
not
some regular dude.
No, it was not. It was more of like a casual fan that posted it. And for some reason, I don't know who picked it up or who started promoting it. It went like, of all the hockey sites that I subscribe to that are really good and they're insightful, and I use a lot of stuff on the show, obviously, there was a lot of nonsense directed in this guy's direction. And it was posted. I mean, I was, whatever day that was, I think it was Thursday or Friday. I was like, I got to stop seeing this. Now this person's posting this guy's and it just went viral. So I don't know that guy made a lot of friends last week.
I don't think so either. I definitely agree with you. I definitely think it counts. You know, the obstacles and the hoops you had to go through. You know, if anything, they should get, you know, bonus points for, you know, completing to winning the Stanley Cup this year, because it's probably harder than other years and mentally exhausting. But yeah, this guy got a lot of press, but I'm sure he's not the only one who said something stupid like that.
No, he's
you know
not.
what I mean? So like, he's getting all this press. Maybe we should say something stupid like that. We'll get all the press.
We try. You know, I feel like one of our cardinal 101 rules here is we stay away from controversy. We don't talk politics. We don't talk really coronavirus response and all that stuff. We just kind of stick to the basics and Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. Food, business, and hockey.
Food business and fast food. Yeah. So that's what we do here. So if you did see, if you're a hockey fan out there and you did see this tweet last week from this guy, know that we are in agreement that he is completely wrong. And if you are a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning, rejoice in knowing that your name is on the Stanley Cup, just like any other teams in the past has been.
And to play devil's, as opposed to what? Like, what's your argument, man? We're gonna not count this season. We're gonna put an asterisk on it.
I was about to use the A word.
You know, like what? Yeah. Even if you did, like, who has an asterisk? Barry Bonds,
right?
You know what I mean? Like,
but that would be deservedly so.
Exactly.
Right. This would not.
So, you know what I mean? Like, what if we're comparing asterisks? Is
the coronavirus because of Tampa Bay Lightning? Did they cause it that there should be an asterisk?
Did the coronavirus infect all the good teams and they couldn't play?
No.
That would be worthy of an asterisk.
Right. And again, we had no positive coronavirus cases.
So that.
Shifting gears, and that is a good segue into football, because now, man, you know, we talked last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. Well, football's gotten a couple weeks and there's no issues, and it's surprising because we would have thought there would have been coronavirus issues, and here we go.
Mm-hmm.
So the Tennessee Titans had a bunch of positive cases last week, both amongst their players and their personnel, and that canceled their game this past Sunday versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, which now is getting replayed. I want to say it's October 25th. But 2 days ago, it comes out that Cam Newton, quarterback of the New England Patriots, tested positive. And that game got postponed only a day. They played it last night, but the Patriots obviously had to be without their star quarterback because it doesn't matter what your coronavirus policy is. If you're 1 day positive with it, you're not going to play football. And they played last night on Monday Night Football and did not really get anything going offensively, to no surprise, because they didn't have their quarterback. So the NFL now, as we move forward, hopefully is able to do what baseball did, because baseball, if you remember, and this was actually our first ever show, was right when the Miami Marlins had that outbreak and looked like baseball was in trouble. Somehow baseball got it together. We're now in the division series of the playoffs. And other than that beginning hiccup where the Miami Marlins, and then there were a couple cases amongst the St. Louis Cardinals, it hasn't really been an issue. So let's hope that the NFL can do the same sort of thing where it appears and then it disappears, and something you put in place. At least get us to February with the Super Bowl. And then, you know what, we can move on to other things football, but hopefully it doesn't interfere with anything else. So last week, and this is kind of funny because I'm going to rip on someone, and I'm going to rip on them, and that is myself, because holy cow, was I got off. Last week, so we had a run here in the first 3 weeks of the NFL season where we make our 5 picks with the spread.
Yes.
And as it's been noted elsewhere, if you had followed us the first 3 weeks and did what we told you to do, and you took the 5 games, you would have made money because we had more right picks than wrong picks. So you cashed in on what we told you to do. Now, last week, I think I said to you off the air before we went on, I like picking the 5 games last week. I thought was really easy. I thought the 5 games, like they just were glaringly obvious to me. I'm like, wow, this surprises me. This surprises me. All 5 of them. How many Dougie Sticks of the 5 do you think I had right?
Well, I'm going to say, based on this intro, 0.
0 is the right answer. Now, this is really freaking hard to do. Now, it's terrible. But if you said to me, go out and get 0 right this week again, they're really 50-50 shots. And I felt really, really good about what we had last week.
It was a weird week of football.
Like, I thought the Dolphins getting 6.5 at home versus Seattle was a good bet. Now, if they only lost by 8, so I wasn't that far off, but I still lost, right? Vegas doesn't matter. Close doesn't cut it. You're still taking your money.
Yep.
Then the Giants, who suck, had to go cross country to play the Rams. Now, we all knew they weren't going to win, and the Rams were giving 13, but in my head, I'm like, the Giants maybe are going to score 10 points at most. And they
didn't score. They didn't have a touchdown.
They didn't have a touchdown, but they still covered because they only lost by 8 or 9. And then I said to you, the Bears, hey, you know what? They're getting points at home. Phillip Rivers is on the Colts. So that didn't hit either. And then this may have been my favorite one because we talked about this with our guest, Old Man Who Bets, last week. The Cowboys were given 4.5 at home. Okay. Now, they were given 4.5 at home versus the Browns. And I said, you know what? The Browns have beaten some teams, but the teams they've beaten have been bad. They're still the Browns, and the Cowboys need to win. They have a decent coach now in Mike McCarthy. The Browns just got the Browns annihilated the Cowboys. It was awful. It was so bad that the Cowboys were down, I want to say, in something 20 or 30, came back and still managed to lose by 17 or something. So I wasn't even close on that. And then the other one, I had Vegas at home getting 3 versus Buffalo, thinking like, on what planet would we live on that the Buffalo Bills are going to be 4-0? Well, guess what planet we're living on?
2020.
2020. The Bills are 4-0. And they covered their 3 points easily. So I was freaking god awful, and it's painful for me there not to curse when I'm just talking about my performance. But I'm gonna keep it PG. I was 0 for 5. Now the one thing, if you listen to the program, which was right, which I had nothing to do with, our guest last week, Old Man Who Bets, was oddly enough, was big on the under 45 in the Colts and the Bears. We don't even touch over-unders. I rarely ever look at them. He was just big on the under 45, saying that he was surprised it wasn't more like 42. And he was right, because it wasn't even close. It was under by a mile. I want to say it was somewhere in the 20s. So he was dead on right. So if you listen to him last week, you would have hit something. But I was terrible. And I was terrible by having 5 games that I felt incredibly confident in. And I got them all freaking wrong.
Well, I mean, like, definitely a weird week in football. 1. 2, if you watch that Giant game, like, if you're a Giant fan, that was painful. Like, all they needed to do, like, there was one point that I don't remember what the end score was, but at the last 2 minutes of the game, they were only down 1 point, and they were right on the goal line, and they didn't have a touchdown all game. Like, if you scored 1 touchdown instead of kicking field goals, they would get to the goal. They get to the red zone. Field goal, red zone, field goal, red goal, field goal. If they scored 1 time, they might have won that game. I mean, we still would have lost money, but still, you're a Giant fan. It's painful. And to touch base, what we were going with the asterisks, right? So here's where I don't want the asterisks to count. I'm 4-0 on my fantasy football.
Really?
Yes, I'm 4-0. I'm crushing everybody. And yes, thank you for your support. And thank you, Old Man Who Best, Jeff Sheesby. But I don't want the asterisks to count because I'm killing it with these injuries. I'm killing it with these COVIDs.
Really?
Yeah.
So I had my fantasy, and I had Saquon. So now it's kind of like we're trying to salvage something.
Yep.
I was 2-1 heading into the weekend, and I do a bunch of leagues. We've talked about that, but there's one that I have more importance on. That's the only one I'll ever talk about on the show. I was 2-1 going into this weekend, and I looked on. Do you do Yahoo? What do you do?
Yeah,
Yahoo. So Yahoo will give you a percentage, like live up to the minute, what % chance you have of winning.
Yeah.
Right. So I look. It's like 6:30 on Sunday, which, by the way, was National Taco Day.
Nice.
So we made tacos. Well, we say we, but it was mostly me. Made tacos for the kids because they never had it. So I was doing that Sunday. I was kind of half paying attention to football. And I looked at 6:30 at my matchup, and I was up a ton.
Mm-hmm.
And my opponent only had 2 people left. No, 3. He had the kicker on Philadelphia on Sunday Night Football. He had George Kittle, the tight end on San Francisco, and Aaron Rodgers last night. And I had Matt Ryan and Julio Jones left. And I was up by 40-something. Mm-hmm. So the % chance that Yahoo gave me at that moment of winning the matchup was 84%. And the opponent was 16. Feeling pretty good, going 3-1. Yeah. So I text my buddy, "Hey, you know what? Well, no, I didn't text the guy that I played. I texted my buddy in the league. I said, you know what? Hey, I'm 3-1. I'm surviving. No Saquon, whatever. I forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
I looked yesterday morning. Apparently, George Kittle on Sunday Night Football had 183 yards and a touchdown for my opponent. So my 84% chance went down to 51 going into Monday Night Football. So my opponent last night had Aaron Rodgers and had a 13-point lead.
And you had Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan and Julio Jones.
A lot of people had that. Like, that was a matchup in my league.
Really?
Yeah.
So they had it where it said it was a 50-50 shot, but I had a feeling I was going to lose, and that's what I did. First off, Julio Jones got hurt. Now he's hurt. I mean, basically, I am going to be playing you in my fantasy football league as my star. What would you be, like a tight end, running back? What would you be?
Oh, if
you
you're
were
going to
playing.
choose me,
Yeah.
I'm going to go join a team right now.
Dougie Sticks.
I'd be a QB, man. I'm
Okay.
telling people where to go. I'm throwing these little.
Matt Ryan's 0-4, and Julio Jones, a star receiver, who's also my receiver, is apparently injured. So Dougie Sticks may be coming off the waiver wire in my waiver action this week. So let's talk about some week picks here for week 5. Now, I said last week that I had no problem picking the 5 games, and then I got them all wrong. Last night, I am looking at the spreads, and I had an enormously difficult time finding games that I liked. I think there was, I'm looking at one game out of the 5 that I picked that I kind of feel confident in.
They're all close, man.
Yeah. So let's run through them. All right. I am going to take for week 5 the Browns plus 2.5 at home versus the Colts. This is a combination of two things. One, I'm going to buy the Browns a little bit. They're 3-1. I understand they haven't played a lot of good teams, although they had a good, impressive road win last week in Dallas. But it's a combination of that. And again, I still don't trust Phillip Rivers on the Colts. So give me the Browns plus 2.5 at home versus the Colts. Although, speaking of fantasy, Nick Chubb now is hurt, the running back for the Browns. So that will be a problem going forward.
I'm seeing a lot of Odell posts saying he's back, ready to go.
So he was the reason I was up so much. I have him on Sunday. My buddy was texting me that Odell had his 3rd touchdown. So his 3rd touchdown was like a 50-yard rush. So I was like, oh, well, you know what? Again, I'm going to win this week because of Odell.
He had one off of a reverse. Like,
that was the
crazy,
one. That was the one. And here we are. Still losing as always. So give me the Browns 2.5 at home versus the Colts.
I like it.
The next one, Monday Night Football. I don't. Okay, so the Browns was the one that I kind of felt comfortable in. The next 4, I'm kind of just drawing straws here.
All right.
The Chargers are getting 8 points at the Saints on Monday Night Football. The Saints don't normally blow anyone out. Plus 8 would be more than a touchdown. The Chargers have played okay, but now their running back Eckler's hurt. I get that, but you know what? Maybe they can keep it close. The Saints really haven't functioned at 100% yet. They're getting there. Maybe for a week I can buy some time. You're going to give me 8, so even if I lose by a touchdown, I'm still covering. I'm going to take the Chargers plus 8. The next one is just outright stupid, and I don't know why I'm doing it. I'm taking the Giants plus 9 in Dallas. Not because I think the Giants are good, because they're not at all, but the Cowboys just lost by 17 at home to the Browns. My reason for taking the Cowboys if I went the other way would be, well, they need the game. They're 1-3 and they're home, but they were just 1-2 at home versus the Browns, and they sucked. And they got blown out.
Both of these teams, and this is good for your spread and the Giants. Both of these teams play to their opponent. They're like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So like Dallas just had a comeback. Like they had one good win, the comeback win. But like every team they play, they're playing as good as that team. They play a shitty team, they play like shit. They play good. So like if it's a 1-point game, you got your spread.
Right, exactly. But at plus 9, I'm thinking the same thing as you. If you play to your opponent, you're going to win the plus 9.
Yeah.
So the other one, the Eagles, who somehow won on Sunday Night Football, are getting 7 at Pittsburgh. I'm going to take that, not because I think the Eagles are good, but a touchdown is a lot. The Steelers we talked about before was off this past week because of the coronavirus situation with their opponent in Tennessee. So they have also had a bye week. They may be a little bit rusty. They're out of their element a little bit. Plus 7 is a lot. And I don't think in a game where the Eagles and Steelers, they play once every 4 years, and there's kind of a rivalry. They're the 2 Pennsylvania teams. I don't think it'll be a blowout either way. I'll take the Eagles plus 7 on the road at the Steelers. The other one I picked, and then I saw news about the game, but I'm going to stick with it because I'm going to hold myself to my picks.
Okay.
Jacksonville plus 6.5 at Houston. Houston sucks. They're 0-4. Right, and they lost this weekend at home to Minnesota. They fired yesterday the first NFL coaching fatality of the year. Goes to Bill O'Brien, who is the general manager and coach there in Houston. 0-4, and he's out. Taken over by Romeo Crennel, who is a popular name in the NFL. He was a Belichick assistant for years, and then he coached in Cleveland. He'll be running the ship now in Houston on the interim basis. But Jacksonville getting 6.5 is still a lot, and Houston just is not. They've lost DeAndre Hopkins via trade. That's hurting them. Their running game is not. I mean, it's a lot of points. So give me Jacksonville plus 6.5. So to recap, the Browns 2.5 getting 2.5 at home versus the Colts. The Chargers plus 8 at New Orleans next Monday night. The Giants plus 9 in Big D. The Eagles plus 7 in the Keystone State matchup in Pittsburgh. And I will take the Jacksonville Jaguars plus 6.5 at Houston. Now, we always pick the local game here as well. We will, by using the Giants as one of my 5, I've already done that. Mm-hmm. So the Jets. So last week, when Old Man Who Bets was on the show, we talked and we said, the Jets were at that point, they were getting one at home on Thursday Night Football versus Denver, who you would think was like equally as terrible. Well, actually, no. You'd think they were a little bit better, right? They're not equally as terrible, but they're bad, right?
Yep.
So Old Man Who Bets, and we talked about it. We said, what? If there ever was a week you're going to take the Jets, this is the week you're going to take the Jets, right? Mm-hmm. They're playing a crappy team in their home. So the Jets were +1 on the spreads. Well, by the time it got to Thursday, because it was the Thursday night game, they were giving a point, which tells you that people were buying into the Jets as like this would be the week they were going to win. Now, my buddy, and I've talked a little bit about it, and I won't give names, who uses my account legally to bet because he doesn't live in New Jersey, so I make the bets for him and he pays me, is a huge Jet fan. And he sent me a text. This was Thursday night, I want to say about 7:40. So it was like a half hour before the game. And I was thinking, I'm like, man, it's weird. He hasn't emailed me any bets for tonight yet. And he's a huge Jet fan. But I don't want to remind him. It's fine. Put 400 on the money line Jets to win.
Put it all on green.
Put it all right. Put it all ride the green. So I said to him via text, sure. It's not my place to tell you. Yeah. Look, it's clearly not my place to tell you what to do. On the
obviously not watching the show.
You obviously didn't see my other picks for week 4. So he puts $400 on that, and then he puts like a prop bet, $50 on some player on the Jets I never heard of to have an interception, who did not have an interception that night. So the Jets just suck. Like, it's painful to watch. I watched a little bit on Thursday night of the game, not because I really wanted to, but it was more kind of a combination of there really wasn't anything else on. And Jess and I have been crushing Netflix lately that we kind of needed like a night off. Mm-hmm. So I put on the Jets. And then I think by the end of, actually it's true, by halftime, Jess and I went back to Netflix because it's really hard to watch.
Painful.
It's painful to watch.
Yeah.
Like I shouldn't say this, but my son, my 7-year-old, does flag football, right? And 7-year-olds don't really know what
to put him on flex.
Yeah, he may be my flex player. But 7-year-olds don't really know what they're doing. But that's what a 7-year-old does. Yeah. And you watch it and you're like, oh. But then you watch the Jets and you're like, I shouldn't be feeling like this. Like I'm watching like a pee-wee football team.
So if you want to go down this road, we can go down this road.
Where's it leading me, Dougie? So the way you say it like that, I'm a little afraid.
I mean, I'm a little hurt and afraid as well because I have a Sam Darnold Jet jersey I just got last season, and I feel like there's a lot of talks that we're going to get the number 1 draft pick, and we're getting Trevor Lawrence.
So, if you're the Jets or the Giants, and either one of them could have the first pick, right? And the Giants are in the same situation where they just drafted a quarterback, Daniel Jones. Yeah. If you're not believing in your decision, and Trevor Lawrence is on the board when it's your turn to pick, you've got a really hard decision to make. I think it's a harder decision actually for the Giants because Dave Gettleman, who's the GM there, drafted Daniel Jones. He basically would be admitting his own mistake. If you're the Jets, the GM now there is Joe Douglas. He's not the one who drafted Darnold. So you it's not like pie in your face. But if you're the Giants and you pick number 1, which let's face it, it's a legitimate possibility. The Jets or Giants, probably one of them are picking number 1 at this rate. You have to think that.
And the Giants made their own bed. I don't feel bad for them. what they did to Eli and how they navigated that whole situation. I felt like Eli had the right to finish that season out. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I feel like Eli should have finished that season out. I don't think Danny Dimes was ready yet. So now, because you did that and you threw him into the fire, now you're putting him on the line, on fire. Like, if he doesn't get a couple wins this season and avoids that first round pick, like, they're taking Lawrence. And as far as the Jets, like, sorry, Sam, like, they had the pieces to be decent. Le'Veon Bell, you had Sam Darnold. You're like, you have pieces and you're just not doing anything with it. So sorry, like, I'm gonna have to, I probably should try to sell my jersey now.
Well, that will be as the NFL season progresses. And you get a clearer indication as it goes on who's going to be picking where, particularly as we get towards December. Once we know who has the number one pick, if it is one of the New York local teams, it will be certainly a discussion on this program. What do you do? Because you're going to have a big dilemma on your hand. Do you admit that you made a mistake with the quarterback you just drafted when you realize you can upgrade with Trevor Lawrence? So with the Jets game, because we always pick that, they are this weekend getting 6.5 at home versus Arizona. And this was another thing, like my constant theme this week. Like I'm not, nothing is jumping out at me with this bet. Arizona did not play well over the weekend in Carolina. Carolina's not good. I'm going to take the Jets 6.5 at home. But look, we know I'm going to come on the program next week and be like, that was dumb because they lost by 32. But because we always pick the local games here on the show, I am going to take the Jets plus 6.5. What do you want to do? You want to
I'll ride that train with you. So we're on this. I'm all about teams, so I'll go on the ship with you. But here's my question to you before we put a close on the Jets. Are you looking right now to trade Sam and try to get something for next season and basically planning on tanking? You know what I mean? Like get you while you might be able to get something for him now.
That's the question. You kind of just answered it right there because I think
everyone's on to you.
Well, yeah, I think you always take the phone calls if you're the general manager. You always listen to any offer. Like even with the New York Rangers, right? You're not going to trade the first pick, but if someone wants to call and say, "Hey, here's an offer for the first pick," you listen to it. I mean, there's no harm in listening to it. I just don't know what you're going to get. And what team is out there right now, if you're going to trade for a quarterback mid-season, you have to be in a position where you have a good chance to make a run. You'd have to have your quarterback position already solidified to be in the position you're in. You wouldn't need Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I mean, yes. And if there was, is there a team right now that needs a quarterback desperately?
The only one I could say maybe would be that jumps at me is the Bears. I mean, they benched Trubisky and they have Nick Foles, but is Sam Darnold really a major upgrade?
Nick Foles?
Right. I don't know. So probably not. So we're taking the Jets here on the show. So thanks for tuning in this week. Tune in tonight, 7:00 on the NHL Network to watch the historical moment as the unsuspenseful decision is announced that the New York Rangers select from Canada, Alexis Lafreniere. As always, send in your questions at any point during the week. We do look at them at mypbshow@gmail.com. We will pay attention to our emails. We'll try to get some questions on the show next week. I know we didn't do a good job of that this week. We will also, I am planning on bringing onto the program, and it was possibly going to happen today, but it didn't due to some logistical issues. A writer for the NHL.com who's going to talk to us about some NHL offseason predictions, and we'll focus those questions, of course, on the New York Rangers.
Awesome.
So thanks for tuning in, everybody, whether you're on Spotify, iTunes, or anywhere else out there. We appreciate you listening. Send in your questions and celebrate tonight. Raise your pumpkin spice latte glass, Mr. Dougie Sticks, or whatever it is you may be drinking, or maybe it's what the Tampa Bay Lightning were drinking in the parade, of your beverage of choice as the New York Rangers make history tonight and select Alexis Lafreniere.
New chapter
of our book. Out with the old, like Henrik Lundqvist, even though it's painful, and in with the new. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.